Hey there, fellow INFJ. Ever felt like something from your childhood is still messing with your head? Well, buckle up, cause we're about to dive deep into a lie that's been haunting us since we were kids. It's time to face the music and ask ourselves what childhood misconception is secretly sabotaging our lives. All right, let's get real for a second. We've all heard it growing up, right? That little voice telling us, "You're too sensitive. You need to toughen up." Sound familiar? Yeah, I thought so. It's like a broken record playing on repeat in our minds, and let me tell you, it's doing a number on you as INFJ. So, here's the deal. We're going to break this down piece by piece and figure out why this so-called truth is actually a big fat lie. And, more importantly, we're going to learn how to kick it to the curb once and for all. Ready? Let's do this. First things first, let's talk about what it means to be an INFJ. For those of you who might be scratching your heads, INFJ stands for introverted, intuitive, feeling and judging. It's one of the 16 personality types in the Myers-Briggs type indicator, and let me tell you, we're a rare breed. Only about 1 to 2% of the population falls into this category, so if you're an INFJ, congrats. You're basically a unicorn. But being rare doesn't always feel like a blessing, does it? Especially when we're constantly told that our natural traits are somehow wrong or need fixing. And that's where this childhood lie comes in. From a young age, many of us INFJ were told that we're too sensitive or that we need to toughen up. It's like society decided that sensitivity is a weakness and we need to get rid of it ASAP. But here's the thing that's a load of bull. Yep, I said it. This idea that sensitivity is a flaw is not just wrong, it's downright harmful. And it's high time we called it out for what it is, a lie that's been messing with our heads for far too long. Now, I know what you're thinking. But doesn't being sensitive make life harder? Wouldn't it be easier if we could just brush things offshore? In some ways it might seem easier. But let's dig a little deeper, shall we? Our sensitivity, which is often seen as a weakness, is actually one of our greatest strengths. It's what allows us to connect deeply with others, to understand complex emotions, and to see the world in a way that many others can't. We're like emotional sponges, soaking up the feelings and vibes around us. And you know what? That's a superpower, not a flaw. Think about it. In a world that often feels cold and disconnected, our ability to empathize and truly understand others is priceless. We're the ones who can walk into a room and immediately sense the mood. We're the friends people turn to when they need someone to really listen. We're the co-workers who can diffuse tension before it even becomes visible to others. That's not weakness, that's strength. But here's where it gets tricky. Because we've been told for so long that we're too sensitive, many of us have tried to shut down this part of ourselves. We've built walls, put on masks, and tried to be someone we're not. And let me tell you, that's a one-way ticket to misery town. When we try to suppress our natural sensitivity, we're not just denying a part of ourselves, we're cutting off our own power source. It's like trying to dim our inner light because someone told us it was too bright. But here's the kicker: the world needs our light. It needs our sensitivity, our empathy, our ability to see beyond the surface. So how has this lie been ruining our lives? Oh, let me count the ways. For starters, it's led to a whole lot of self-doubt. We question our reactions, our feelings, our very way of being in the world. We second-guess ourselves constantly, wondering if we're overreacting or if our feelings are valid. This self-doubt can seep into every area of our lives. In our relationships, we might hold back from expressing our true feelings. Afraid of being seen as too much at work, we might downplay our intuition or our ability to read situations, worried that others will see us as overly emotional. We might even avoid pursuing our passions or dreams, convinced that we're not tough enough to handle the challenges. But it doesn't stop there. This lie has also led many of us to develop unhealthy coping mechanisms. We might retreat into ourselves, avoiding social situations where we feel our sensitivity might be exposed. Or we might go the other way, putting on a tough exterior and pretending we don't feel things as deeply as we do. Either way, we're not being true to ourselves, and that takes a toll. The stress of constantly trying to be someone we're not can lead to anxiety, depression, and a whole host of other mental health issues. It's exhausting trying to fit into a mold that was never meant for us. And the worst part, it's all based on a lie. So, what's the truth? The truth is, our sensitivity is a gift. It's what makes us uniquely equipped to navigate the complex emotional landscape of the world. It's what allows us to form deep, meaningful connections with others. It's what gives us our creativity, our intuition, our ability to see beyond the obvious. But here's the real kicker: our sensitivity isn't just good for us, it's good for the world. In a society that often values toughness and stoicism above all else, we bring a much-needed balance. We're the ones who remind others of the importance of empathy, of taking the time to truly understand one another. We're the ones who can see the beauty in the small moments, who can appreciate the depth and complexity of human emotions. So, how do we start to undo the damage of this childhood lie? It starts with acceptance. We need to accept ourselves, sensitivity and all. We need to recognize that our way of experiencing the world isn't wrong, it's just different, and different can be beautiful. Next, we need to start reframing our sensitivity as a strength. Instead of seeing it as something to be overcome, we need to see it as a tool to be harnessed. Our sensitivity gives us insight, empathy, and a unique perspective on the world. These are valuable qualities, and it's time we started treating them as such. But it's not just about changing our own perspective. We also need to start challenging this lie when we see it in the world around us. When someone tells a child they're too sensitive, we need to speak up. We need to share our own experiences and show that sensitivity isn't a weakness, it's a different kind of strength. Now, I know what you're thinking. That all sounds great, but how do I actually put it into practice? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's break it down into some actionable steps. First, start paying attention to your self-talk. When you catch yourself thinking, "I'm too sensitive," or "I need to toughen up," challenge that thought. Ask yourself where it's coming from. Is it really your voice, or is it that childhood lie talking? Next, start celebrating your sensitivity. Keep a journal of moments where your sensitivity helped you or someone else. Maybe you were able to comfort a friend because you picked up on their mood. Or perhaps your intuition helped you avoid a potentially difficult situation. Write these moments down and refer back to them when you're feeling doubtful. It's also important to set boundaries. Just because we're sensitive doesn't mean we have to absorb everyone's emotions all the time. Learn to recognize when you need to step back and recharge. It's not selfish, it's self-care. And speaking of self-care, make sure you're giving yourself plenty of time to process your emotions. As INFJ, we need time to reflect and make sense of our experiences. Don't feel guilty about taking that time, it's essential for our well-being. Another crucial step is finding your tribe. Surround yourself with people who appreciate your sensitivity, who value your insights and your empathy. These are the people who will remind you of your strength when you forget. Now, let's talk about how this applies in different areas of our lives. In our relationships, being open about our sensitivity can lead to deeper, more authentic connections. Instead of hiding this part of ourselves, we can explain to our loved ones how we experience the world. This can lead to greater understanding and stronger bonds. At work, our sensitivity can be a major asset. Our ability to read situations and understand others can make us excellent leaders, team players, and problem solvers. Don't be afraid to use these skills, they're valuable, and good employers will recognize that. In our creative pursuits, our sensitivity is often our greatest source of inspiration. It allows us to see beauty and meaning in the world around us, to create art that resonates on a deep emotional level. Embrace this part of yourself in your creative work. It's what makes your voice unique. But perhaps most importantly, embracing our sensitivity can lead to a greater sense of purpose. As INFJ, we often feel a deep desire to make the world a better place. Our sensitivity is what fuels this desire. It's what allows us to see where change is needed and to empathize with those who are struggling. By accepting and embracing our sensitivity, we're not just improving our own lives, we're positioning ourselves to have a positive impact on the world around us. We're the ones who can bring more compassion, more understanding, and more depth to our interactions and our communities. So, to all my fellow INFJ out there, I want you to hear this loud and clear: you are not too sensitive. You do not need to toughen up. Your sensitivity is not a flaw to be fixed, it's a strength to be embraced. That childhood lie that's been haunting us, it's time to let it go. It's time to recognize that our sensitivity is not just okay, it's amazing. It's what makes us who we are, and the world is better because of it. So the next time someone tells you you're too sensitive, or you feel that old doubt creeping in, remember this: your sensitivity is your superpower. It's time to stop hiding it and start celebrating it. In conclusion, it's clear that this childhood lie about being too sensitive has been holding us back for far too long. It's led to self-doubt, unhealthy coping mechanisms, and a denial of our true selves. But by recognizing this lie for what it is, we can start to break free from its hold on us. Remember, our sensitivity is not a weakness, it's a strength. It's what allows us to connect deeply with others, to understand complex emotions, and to see the world in a unique and valuable way. By embracing this part of ourselves, we're not just improving our own lives, we're positioning ourselves to make a real difference in the world. So, my fellow INFJ, it's time to step into our power. It's time to let our sensitivity shine. Because the truth is, the world doesn't need us to toughen up, it needs us to be exactly who we are. Sensitive, empathetic, intuitive, and strong in our own unique way. Let's leave that childhood lie behind and start living our truth. Because when we embrace our sensitivity, we're not just changing our own lives, we're changing the world, one empathetic interaction at a time. And if you ask me, that's pretty darn powerful.